So now you know how to use color contrast, monochromatic colors, block blinking, and define your settings. However, there's still a few more profiles that will help accommodate a user with a disability. As I mentioned earlier, these profiles include keyboard navigation, screen reader, text color contrast, and the help profile. Please open your browser and go to the links below on the Carahsoft's website and the Georgia Tech's AMAC Research Center website. So now let's jump to Georgia Tech and show you keyboard navigation, screen reader, help, and text color contrast. So now I'm on the Georgia Tech website. So from here, we're going to review the keyboard navigation. So I've activated the keyboard navigation by tabbing in through the accessibility menu. So as you can see, the keyboard navigation has broken up the Georgia Tech website into 3 sections. It has broken it up into the header, the main content, and the footer. So this makes it easier for a user who needs to find something specific on a website and not have to go through every single link on the site specifically. They can just tab into it from where they want to go. So for instance, if a user knows that they're trying to look for the information in the footer, they don't actually have to sit through and tab through every section. They don't have to go through CIDI labs. They can just tab right into here and they go right to the bottom. So let's just quickly show you how this works. So first off, another standard is if you tab in, you go forward. If you tab shift, you go backwards. And from this section, you'll see it here too. I just tabbed in, tab, 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 to go through the main menu. Tab shift to go backwards, say if we missed something, right? Tab forward, and so forth. Let's go into contact us. Great. So from here, just to go back into the accessibility menu, I mentioned the screen reader. So the screen reader is kind of hard to show through a video, but basically what the screen reader profile does is it detects if the computer user has a screen reader such as JAWS or NVDA, and it enables the website to be read. So as you can see from going through the different sections of the website, in the contact section and the find up section, it's now broken it up into a blue highlighted area, and this is where the screen reader is going to be focused on. So User1st does not provide a screen reader on the browser, namely because we don't want 2 competing voices. Typically someone with a visual impairment will have a screen reader already coming to a website, and we don't want to make it more confusing, and it's also not required. So now let's go back to the Georgia Tech homepage. So now that we're back at the AMAC Research Center homepage, let's show you the help layout. So one of the things that I think is very important about the help layout is it provides the user with extra information on links, text, and more importantly, images. Someone with a visual impairment is not going to be able to get a lot of the information out of images. So as you can see, the AMAC Research Center has information laid out over pictures. So these pictures actually have text on them, and they're going to be unable to read them as a user. But with the User1st tool, you see a little drop down It's actually defining what the picture is saying for the user, right? And if the picture is more descriptive, so for instance, on this area, if we highlight over the accessibility education labs, we hover over it just to show you, it defines it. So this is just a picture, this is not actually text for a user, so it's not accessible. But with the User1st tool and the help layout, it's defining what's being said. And you can also see that through the links and text. So the last profile we're going to quickly review is text color contrast. So I would say to pay attention to this area here and this area here. When the profile is activated, you would see the difference. So let's tab in. So the profile enables the text color contrast. Essentially what the text color contrast does is it makes it text would stand out. It's similar to color contrast, right? Except it only inverts the text instead of the images, and it will make the text bolder for a user to see. So now that you're pretty familiar with some of the accessibility profiles, let's do something more dynamic and show you how the profiles carry over. So previously I showed you to define your settings on the Kessler Foundation website. Let's define your settings on Georgia Tech AMAC and go from here. So in part 1 of the demo, I showed you to define your settings profile. And in part 2 of the demo, I asked you to open up an additional website, Carahsoft. So I actually want to show how User1st interacts between different websites and carries over for the cache. So let's actually go into the AMAC Research Center. And as I mentioned, let's go into the define your settings. And we want to have large text, color contrast, we want the help layout, return navigation, and the screen reader. We'll hit apply. So as you can see, that has taken effect on the AMAC Research Center. So let's go to the secondary website I told you to open earlier, Carahsoft. Before showing you, I think it's important to highlight that Carahsoft actually doesn't have the standard accessibility button on the left-hand side, and it has the accessibility button over here. And you can actually do that on your end. We can implement it into the template of your choice. But to show you briefly, now that the accessibility is turned on, it actually cached over. So the settings that we predefined earlier have been carried over to the Carahsoft, which is exactly what we wanted to do.